The villain was selling grilled cold noodles on the street. Everyone thought I'd be the one to redeem him. But all I did was step forward, eyes sparkling, and say, "One grilled cold noodle, no chili." The villain replied simply, "Okay." And for the next 3 months, "One grilled cold noodle, no chili." Okay. We repeated this line like machines. The comment stream went wild. The supporting girl has no desire for love, only undying devotion to grilled noodles. Who says steadfast food cravings can't be a form of redemption? LOL. The first time I saw Edwards was on the snack street. He stood behind a grilled cold noodle cart, wearing a simple black t-shirt, his expression calm as he watched the people rush by. No one was at his stand, it looked a bit pitiful. I saw him. But honestly, he didn't have my full attention. Because holy hell, those noodles smelled amazing. My mouth watered uncontrollably. I rushed up. "One grilled cold noodle, no chili." At my words, Edwards looked up briefly. "Okay." He moved quickly, spreading out the dough and cracking an egg with one hand. With a crisp crack, golden yolk landed on the pancake. My eyes lit up instantly. "Whoa, you're really good at this." His expression didn't change, but his hand trembled slightly. He flipped the pancake too early. A corner of the wrapper tore. But his reflexes were sharp. Within a second, he flipped it back and cleared his throat. "No big deal." "Oh," I said. The rest of the prep went smoothly. Once it was wrapped, I paid and immediately picked up a piece to devour. The wrapper was chewy, the egg fragrant, and the scallions gave it just the right kick. God, it was so delicious. I thought that would be the end of it. But after just one night, I found myself craving the flavor again. I stared at my slightly rounded belly, hesitated for a second, and started questioning reality. This was the curse of being a side character. One night passes, and the world resets. It's not like I wanted to eat more noodles. Well, having reasoned with myself, I confidently returned to the snack street from yesterday. It was summertime. The sky stayed bright late into the evening, still light out around 5 or 6 p.m. Vendors had already set up early. I spotted him immediately, a tall figure standing out among the crowd. He was slender, pushing the cart with difficulty through the bustling street. I couldn't wait anymore. After a moment's thought, I walked up to him. "Let me help." Maybe he hadn't expected to see me again. His gaze lingered on my face for 2 seconds before he finally spoke, "Thanks." His voice was cool and reserved. I grinned up at him. "Hee, no problem. I'm just here for another grilled cold noodle, no chili." "Okay." He pushed the cart to its usual spot and started spreading the dough and cracking eggs again. Having learned from yesterday, he didn't flip the pancake too early this time. I watched him eagerly, paid via QR code, and as soon as I got my noodles, I walked off without another word. Edwards. And so began the next 3 months. I became a regular at his cart. Word around school was that Edwards came from a struggling family. To help with expenses, he skipped evening study sessions and earned money by working the stall. The teachers mostly turned a blind eye. As for me, I was a day student. After school, I'd take a detour and pass by. "One grilled cold noodle, no chili." "Okay. 1, please." "Got it." We repeated the same exchange like a script. Eventually, whenever I appeared, he would automatically start prepping the dough. I'd be waiting in anticipation when suddenly, glowing subtitles flashed across my vision. "So this is what the villain looked like in his youth? Damn, he's hot." Laughed myself to death. I thought the girl was supposed to redeem him. The girl's got no interest in romance, just grilled noodles. But hey, who says loyalty to food isn't a kind of salvation? LOL. I blinked, making sure I wasn't hallucinating from hunger. Villain? I looked more closely at Edwards. The boy was watching the noodles cook, focused and intent. His brow was sharp, lending him a slightly dangerous air beneath his dark bangs. As if sensing my gaze, he paused and looked up. His dark eyes gleamed. It was only then I realized, for a street vendor, Edwards was way too handsome. His eyes tapered gracefully, with a single red mole beneath one corner, cold elegance with a surprising touch of allure. He did look a bit like a villain. But his grilled noodles were simply delicious. The mouth-watering smell hit me again. I swallowed hard, eyes glued to the sizzling pancake. How much longer? LOL. That sultry glance went completely to waste on someone obsessed with food. That's our hungry heroine. She'll notice the hot guy, sure, but food comes first. Crunches chips. It must be true love. Who else eats grilled noodles non-stop for 3 whole months? I glanced through the comments and pressed my lips together. Honestly? They had a point. This future villain CEO made really amazing grilled noodles. Was this how he would build his empire? Just as I was lost in thought, a cool voice beside me said, "It's ready." I snapped back to reality and looked at the steaming grilled cold noodles placed before me. The egg wrapper was golden and crisp, sprinkled with black sesame seeds and topped with green scallions. Inside, I could faintly see ham, lettuce, and tender pork strips. Colorful, fragrant, and mouth-watering, it looked ridiculously appetizing. I quickly thanked him and, before I could even walk away, couldn't resist taking a big bite. Hot food always tastes best when fresh. Suddenly, I heard a soft chuckle. I instinctively looked up and caught a fleeting smile on the boy's face. Seeing me looking at him, Edwards didn't avert his gaze. For once, he actually said something besides, "Okay, is it really that good?" "It's delicious." The words shot out of my mouth. Even hesitating for 1 second would have been disrespectful to the grilled cold noodles in my hand. But Edwards seemed to misunderstand something. He stared at me, his dark eyes glittering like they were filled with stardust, so bright they almost hurt to look at. His lips parted, like he wanted to say something more. But just then, another customer came up. "1 grilled cold noodle, please, with egg and bacon." Still munching, I gave Edwards a cheerful promo on the side. "This place is amazing. The noodles are insanely good." The customer didn't doubt a thing. "Really?" Now that someone had stopped by the stand, other passers-by began to gather too. Slowly but surely, more and more people came over to buy. Satisfied with my contribution, I quietly slipped away. I didn't notice that behind me, the boy was still flipping wrappers. When he looked up again and saw that I had vanished into the crowd, the light in his eyes dimmed. I didn't think much of it. The next day, I went to school as usual. Between classes, I ran into Edwards while fetching water. After some thought, I pretended not to know him. After all, he always wore a mask while selling noodles. He probably didn't want classmates recognizing him. So, I walked right past him as if nothing happened. Edwards, though, paused in his step. Then a wave of glowing comments flashed before my eyes. Wait, did the villain just open his mouth to speak? LOL, his brows are all furrowed. The noodle girl ate from his stand for 3 months and didn't even remember what he looks like. Not that it matters. She's just a minor side character anyway. I ignored the comments. The day passed quickly. It was my turn for classroom duty. I was supposed to clean with my deskmate. But when class ended, I looked around and saw Susan, my deskmate, heading out the door. Without thinking, I stepped in front of her. "Susan, it's our turn for duty today. Did you forget?" Susan paused, gave me a cold glance, and replied, "I have something else to do. Sorry for the trouble." With that, she turned and walked away. I opened my mouth to stop her, but before I could speak, my eyes caught a familiar figure outside the classroom. It was James, my childhood friend. His school uniform jacket hung loosely off his shoulders, and he stood there casually, exuding a naturally cool presence. A few other guys stood around him, laughing and chatting, though their eyes were all glancing in our direction. It looked like they were waiting for someone. When our eyes met, I felt both excitement and nervousness. Was he here for me? My heart began to race as I took a step forward, but someone beat me to it. Susan walked straight toward him, calm and composed. James's eyes lit up. "Susan." I froze in place. And right on cue, the comment stream burst out laughing. "Girl, what are you thinking? You'll never beat the female lead, Susan. Don't embarrass yourself." "Oh right, this side character is the childhood friend of the male second lead. But she's irrelevant, he'll reject her in 2 seconds flat. Can't wait for the second male lead to smack down this delusional girl." I already knew. There's no way I'd confess and hand him the chance to reject me. I'm not that dumb. In the distance, Susan didn't spare James a second glance. She walked right past him. But James? He followed along like a puppy. I stood there, unmoving. My fingers curled unconsciously at my sides. James and I had known each other for 18 years, and yet, it always felt like I was the one chasing after him. When I fell as a kid, he'd just keep walking ahead, urging impatiently, "Hurry up." I would grit my teeth, get up, and trail after him. Back then, I didn't even understand what liking someone meant. He was just my only friend. He'd give me a birthday gift every year and ruffle my hair while saying happy birthday. Feelings bloomed during those naive teenage years. But in all that time, I had never seen that look on his face. That cautious anticipation, that burning eagerness, that unmistakable joy. Turns out, liking someone really is impossible to hide. It shows in an instant. I lowered my gaze. Of course I felt a little disappointed. I turned and silently walked back to the classroom. Yeah. I deserved 2 servings of grilled cold noodles today, to comfort my fragile little heart. Down the hallway, the boy who had just been about to leave paused. He stood there, gazing in my direction, eyes flickering with light and shadow. Back in the classroom, most students had left. The large room quickly emptied until it was just me. I cleaned every corner and ended up drenched in sweat. Unnoticed, night had fallen. When I wrinkled my nose, dumped the trash, and washed my hands, the street lamps outside had already flickered on. Snack stalls lined the street in dazzling variety. I glanced around and spotted Edwards's stand. It was surrounded by a crowd. I was just about to walk over when a harsh male voice pierced the air. Well, if it isn't our noodle boy, out hustling again. Hey, I heard his family's dirt poor. Bet this junk isn't even safe to eat. Careful, y'all might get food poisoning. They were all wearing school uniforms. As they jeered, some of them grabbed items from the stall and started tossing them around. One even kicked the cart. Bang! A bottle of ketchup hit the ground, splattering everywhere. The nearby crowd quickly backed away. Within minutes, a large circle had cleared out, making the scene all the more obvious. Behind the cart, Edward stood still. His expression was cold. The troublemakers didn't leave. Instead, they strutted over to a neighboring barbecue stand and sat down to watch the show unfold. The comments exploded instantly. These jerks are the worst. Just because Edwards didn't let them cheat during exams, now they're pulling this petty crap. Ugh, there goes his business tonight. Things are only going to get harder for him. It's fine. Someday when the villain's rich and powerful, these losers will be the ones begging for mercy. I was already in a bad mood, and now this? I was livid. I was about to storm over, but stopped. Alone, I wouldn't be able to do much. I glanced around, then randomly grabbed a few nearby pedestrians and asked, "Could you do me a favor and buy one grilled cold noodle from that stall over there? I'll pay." The passers-by looked confused but agreed easily. Sure. They took my money and headed toward Edwards's stall. The bullies hadn't expected anyone would still buy from him after that spectacle. Their eyes widened in disbelief. But the people I'd pulled aside were both men and women, and the bullies didn't dare make a move on them. They could only stand by, fuming, as Edwards kept selling his noodles one by one. Then, someone spotted me. Their eyes darkened with malice. I was still focused on the stand when I suddenly realized someone had walked right up to me. Behind the cart, Edwards had been busy cooking, but something must have tipped him off. He suddenly looked up, and when he saw what was happening, his pupils shrank sharply. "Hey, what, are you into Edwards or something?" A sharp, mocking voice pierced my ear. I jumped, startled. Just as I turned to look, someone yanked my ponytail hard. It felt like my scalp was about to be torn clean off. The pain made my eyes squeeze shut, tears welling up uncontrollably. "You nosy bitch. What's it got to do with you, huh? Wanna die?" The boy beside me suddenly dropped his pretense, his tone vicious and full of rage. I clenched my teeth and dug my nails into his arm. He hissed in pain and let go of my hair, only to raise his hand as if to slap me. Instinctively, I shut my eyes. But the pain I braced for never came. Instead, a gust of wind rushed past my ears. Bang! I opened my eyes and saw the guy who'd been beside me sprawled on the ground. Edward stood above him, expression dark and terrifying. He gripped the boy's collar and pummeled him, fist after fist raining down, veins bulging in his arm. Soon, blood began to flow. The other boys who'd been sitting at the barbecue stand jumped up and rushed over. A brawl broke out. People passing by stopped to watch the chaos. Some even pulled out their phones to film. I hadn't expected things to escalate like this. Frozen in place, I heard someone shout from afar, "I've called the police." At that, the gang seemed to snap out of it. One of them shot Edwards a vicious glare and spat, "You're dead. Just wait." Then, they shoved through the crowd and fled in a mess. On the ground, Edwards's expression was still ice cold. His lip was split, and a bruise was already forming on his cheekbone. I hurried over and helped him up. "Are you okay?" He met my eyes and gradually eased out of his fury. His gaze swept over me, confirming I wasn't hurt, before softly replying, "I'm fine. What about you?" The crowd, seeing the excitement was over, began to scatter. "I'm okay too," I said, shaking my head. Neither of us spoke for a moment. As he stood, he noticed my messy hair. His gaze flickered, but he said nothing. Edwards went back behind the cart. I stood at the front, hesitating for a moment. No one else was coming up to order, and I suddenly felt a bit guilty. The people I'd recruited earlier had all left after the commotion. I murmured, fumbling for words. "Still just one?" His tone was calm, as if nothing had happened. I blinked. "Actually, make it 2 today." "Okay." Maybe it was just my imagination, but when Edward started preparing the second one, his face seemed shadowed by a faint cloud of gloom. He even accidentally added chili sauce. I watched as he brushed on layer after layer of spicy sauce. He was probably upset from the fight. I didn't say anything. "It's fine. Worst case, I'd just drink a few extra bottles of water." About 10 minutes later, both orders were ready. Edwards handed them to me. I paid and reached out to take them, but right before he let go, he suddenly paused and said, "Third years shouldn't be dating." What was he even talking about? My mind was still filled with spicy noodles and figuring out how much water I'd need. I mumbled, well, I'm off then. Edwards. Huh? What did the villain mean by that just now? Probably projecting. He likes the female lead, who doesn't like him. The side girl likes the second male lead, who doesn't like her. It's a whole web of unrequited love. Am I the only one who senses something off here? I ignored the comments and started with the non-spicy noodles. Then, braving the heat, I finished the spicy ones too. Even after chugging tons of water, my spice tolerance had its limits. The next morning, I woke up with my throat gloriously hoarse. It hadn't improved by the time I got to school. Joyce. I tried calling out, but barely any sound came out. It was during break. My seatmate in front burst out laughing. Barbara, what happened to you? Susan, who sat beside me, also turned slightly. Thanks for helping me clean yesterday. No need to thank me. I wasn't that noble. But out loud, I nodded stiffly and rasped, no problem. It was just a small thing. I wouldn't make a fuss over it. Susan paused, then suddenly got up and left the room. She was always cool and aloof, used to doing her own thing. I didn't think much of it. But a little while later, she came back. And placed a box of throat lozenges on my desk. It landed lightly, but felt like it knocked against my heart. I stared, momentarily stunned. Susan didn't look at me. She simply sat back down, elegant fingers moving as she began to write. Her tone was calm. Consider it a thank you. I looked at the lozenges, then up at her profile. Delicate, refined, almost flawless. Suddenly, the resentment I'd been bottling up since yesterday dissolved. She really was a good person. Beautiful and considerate. No wonder James liked her. Our girl Susan is so kind, even to a side character. She really is the female lead. Why is the side girl staring at her? Is she jealous? Hey, chill. Can't two girls just get along without people assuming it's some kind of rivalry? For once, I actually felt a little guilty after reading the comments. To be honest, I was a bit envious of her. Susan was smart, pretty, and easily won James's affection. It's hard not to feel a little bitter. But, who James liked was his choice. Why should I turn that into resentment toward the person he liked? Besides, it's not like James is the only man in the world. I can just like someone else. That thought made my heart feel a lot lighter. The last class of the day was PE. As soon as the bell rang and I stepped out of the school gate, glowing comments popped up before my eyes. The female lead's about to get tricked into the equipment room, and miss her last chance to see her grandma. She's been rushing out of school every day to visit her sick grandmother in the hospital. Ugh, the male lead shows up, but it's already too late. I froze, staring at the stream. Wait, wasn't the female lead my deskmate, Susan? The throat lozenges she gave me were still in my pocket. My steps faltered for just a second. Then, without thinking, I turned and ran back into the school. Huh? Why's the side girl running back? Wasn't she headed to get grilled noodles? Probably forgot something. Yeah, most likely. I didn't have time to read any more. Fearing I'd be too late, I sprinted toward the equipment room. But at a glance, I couldn't see Susan anywhere. Was she already inside? It was around sunset. Clouds were gathering in the distant sky, storm clouds. Rain was coming fast. Without hesitating, I dashed toward the door. But I ran too fast. On the stairs, I misstepped and rolled down hard. Flat on my back, pain surged through my knees and ankle. I lay there a while, unable to move. Sticky blood trickled down from my knee. Now I was close enough. From inside, I faintly heard a trembling voice. Is anyone out there? Yes. I shouted hoarsely, but my voice was so raspy it sounded downright creepy. A beat of silence. Then a hesitant voice, Barbara? I nodded instinctively, then realized she couldn't see me. That was dumb. I struggled to my feet and opened the door. As it creaked open, the air was thick with the smell of plastic and damp concrete. I looked up and saw Susan squatting in the corner. Hearing the noise, she turned her head. Only then did I realize, her face was ghostly pale. Cold sweat beaded her forehead. She looked like she was enduring some kind of pain. The female lead has claustrophobia, she looks awful. My poor baby, but don't worry, the male lead's almost here. Wait, the side girl actually came to help? Okay, she's kind of decent. Claustrophobia? My brows knitted. I hobbled over to her, asking cautiously, You okay? I'm fine. Thank you. She stood and stumbled toward the door. I knew she was rushing to the hospital to see her grandma, so I didn't stop her. Just then, footsteps echoed in the distance. More than one. Two boys came running up to the equipment room like a gust of wind. One of them I didn't recognize, handsome and tall. Must be the male lead, Thomas, as the comments suggested. The other was all too familiar, James. Both their eyes locked on Susan. In perfect sync, they asked, Are you okay? Susan waved them off, trying to stay upright. But after just a few steps, she collapsed forward. The boys panicked. Thomas hurriedly scooped her into his arms, blurting out, "I'm taking her to the hospital." James followed closely behind. Seeing him about to leave, I tried to call out. But my voice failed me again. "James." It came out as little more than air. He seemed to hear something. He looked back. And just then, the sky broke open with thunder, and rain poured down. Before I could try again, James turned away, took off his jacket, and held it over Susan. "Don't get wet. Let's go. Their figures quickly vanished into the foggy rain. And I was left standing there, alone. Why does this feel so sad? She came to help the female lead but ended up forgotten. That's what happens when you're not the protagonist. From Susan's POV, it's all sweet and romantic. Bet the villain's gonna rush to the hospital too. The side girl won't even get grilled noodles tonight. I hadn't even felt that upset, until I saw that last comment. Suddenly, I couldn't hold back the tears. The last bit of sunlight was swallowed by the night. Darkness enveloped the equipment room. Wind carried fine rain through the doorway, damp and bone-chilling. I hadn't brought an umbrella. But I couldn't stay there alone. Wiping my face, I limped out into the rain. The downpour soaked through me instantly. It was cold. Bitterly so. I walked toward the school gate, painfully slow. My ankle throbbed with every step. But for some reason, instead of going home, I ended up on the snack street. Because of the rain, there weren't many people out. The usually vibrant stalls were scattered and few. I looked around, and didn't see the familiar cart. Something clutched my chest and squeezed, aching. I knew it. There'd be no grilled noodles for me tonight. Lowering my head in disappointment, I was just about to turn and leave, when I heard the sound of hurried footsteps. Not from ahead, but from behind. Cautious, I turned. And froze. It only took a few minutes, but the boy's anxious face broke through the rain and streetlight. Our eyes met unexpectedly. "Edwards." I opened my mouth, startled to see him holding a black umbrella. Shouldn't he be at the hospital right now? He walked toward me quickly. His dark hair was soaked, sticking to his forehead. Behind him, the street lamps glowed one by one. Before I could say anything, the umbrella moved to shield me from the rain. His voice was slightly tense. "Did someone hurt you? I saw you limping." I stared at him, dazed, before slowly shaking my head. "No. What are you doing here?" He stiffened, then held my gaze for a long moment. Finally, he said, voice low and a little awkward, "You didn't come to buy noodles. I waited for you for so long." My heart thudded. Wait. Was he waiting for me? I blinked, flustered. "Your cart?" There were a lot of open spots today. I picked a good one. Didn't think it'd rain. He pointed down the street. I followed his direction and saw where he had set up, at the corner of the street. It was usually packed with foot traffic. Prime real estate. Too bad it rained. I felt a little sorry for him. But then I remembered, by the way, Susan's sick. I figured I'd help him out a little. I mean, he made really good noodles. But before I could finish, Edwards interrupted, "What happened to your voice?" That reminded me. I looked at him, full of quiet blame. LOL, the villain's so worried, and he doesn't even realize he's the one who caused her to lose her voice. If he hadn't overdone the chili, she wouldn't be mute right now. But hey, he ditched his stall and ran all the way back to school for her. He really was worried. And then she didn't even show up to eat noodles. LMAO. LMAO, y'all really have no mercy. Edwards looked confused. Then his eyes dimmed slightly as if something dawned on him. He glanced down, then asked softly, "Did you sprain your ankle? I'll take you to the hospital. Just say you want to see Susan. No need to make it so roundabout." But since he was offering, I didn't expose him. "Thanks," I said with a nod. Still, I couldn't help but feel a little disappointed deep down. What I didn't know was that, over at the hospital, after visiting her grandmother, Susan was finally feeling a little better. As she walked out of the room, she suddenly turned to James and asked, "James, do you know Barbara?" The sudden mention of my name caught James off guard. He immediately distanced himself. "Not really. We're just neighbors." Susan didn't press. She frowned slightly but didn't linger on the topic. "Barbara came to help me earlier. I think she fell, looked like a bad one. She was limping pretty badly. I'm not sure if she can make it home alone. Since you're her neighbor, can you check on her? Don't leave her alone in the equipment room." "Barbara fell?" James's brows furrowed, but he quickly brushed it off. "She's tough. She'll manage. You haven't looked great yourself, I'll go grab you something to eat." He turned and headed toward the hospital's little convenience store. But just a few steps in, he suddenly stopped. A memory surfaced. When Barbara was little, she used to fall all the time. She'd always get up quickly, but every time he turned around, she'd be standing there teary-eyed, lips trembling like she was about to cry. So pitiful. He never really had feelings for her. To him, she was just the neighbor's kid sister. Nothing more. But, right before leaving the equipment room, hadn't he heard someone calling his name? He'd looked back then, but didn't see anyone. Maybe because all his attention had been on Susan. Thinking back now, it was probably Barbara calling out to him. She was a girl, after all. Being left alone like that, she must have been scared. A strange unease crept up his chest. Still, he hardened his heart again. Barbara wasn't a child anymore. She could walk on her own. Susan's grandmother was in poor health. Her parents weren't around. Someone had to stay by her side. With that thought, James resumed walking toward the store. But after only a few steps, he looked up, and met my eyes. His gaze flickered when he saw who was standing beside me. I was leaning against Edwards. His arm was steady and strong, supporting most of my weight with ease. At first, Edwards didn't notice James. Seeing me suddenly stop, he thought I was hurting and frowned slightly. "Can't walk anymore? Want me to carry you?" His voice dropped toward the end, eyes locking onto mine. There was a subtle glimmer of anticipation in those deep black pupils. When I didn't respond, Edwards finally followed my line of sight, and spotted James. His expression shifted through several emotions, but in the end, he said nothing. I wasn't surprised to run into James here. After all, I'd watched him leave with Susan earlier. So, is Susan doing better now? I broke the silence first. James didn't expect me to bring up Susan so directly. His expression changed subtly. His gaze dropped to my rain-soaked, blood-streaked knee and my swollen ankle. "She's fine. Still with her grandma." "Good." I breathed a sigh of relief. That meant she made it in time. I hadn't rushed for nothing. At least my classmate I'd randomly sent to find her had accidentally helped alert James and the others. But after that, the silence crept in again. I glanced at Edwards out of the corner of my eye, wondering. Was he going to visit Susan too? Before that thought could fully land, someone grabbed my arm. "Done asking? Then let's go." His voice was clear and cool, cutting through the quiet. I looked up, startled, and locked eyes with him. Before I could say anything, he added, "Pardon me." Then my feet left the ground. Startled, I instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck. He smelled faintly of grilled noodles. I gulped, feeling embarrassed, and quickly turned to pretend I was admiring the hospital's architectural design. I completely missed the light blush on Edwards's ears. And the subtle, slightly smug look he shot at James as we passed. "James." The comments exploded. Wait. Was I imagining things, or did the villain just shoot a look at James? Something's up. Okay. I know Barbara isn't the prettiest girl in the world, but she's cute, okay? I'm officially shipping them now. Munches noodles. Honestly, James really left his childhood friend alone in the equipment room. That's kinda low. Well, he only had eyes for the heroine. No wonder he missed his chance with the girl who liked him. I glanced up at the comments, heart fluttering a little. Ahead of me, the boy's jawline was sharp and defined, eyes fixed forward, his pace steady and firm. How could someone like him possibly like someone like me? By the time we finished at the nurse's station, it was already 7 or 8 in the evening. I sat on a bench in the hospital lobby, watching him bustle around, wiping his wet hair, arranging meds, tossing used tissues. Guilt crept up my spine. Your card is still out on the street, right? I mean, tonight. It's fine. One night off won't kill me." He sat down beside me and looked at my bandaged knee and wrapped ankle. "Where do you live? I'll take you home." I waved my hands quickly. No. I already called my mom. She's on her way to get me. You should go, don't worry about me." "Okay." He agreed. But didn't leave. I waited a while. He still didn't move. I tilted my head toward him. He was looking right at me. Caught red-handed, he turned away abruptly and coughed softly into his hand. His voice was a little awkward. "I'll wait until your mom comes." My lashes fluttered. My heart skipped. Oh. After that night, something between Edwards and me shifted. After school the next day, I bounced over to his stall like always. "One grilled cold noodle. No chili." "Okay." His reply was as short and direct as ever. But once I got the noodles, I noticed something was off. The weight. I looked down. Double wrappers. Double fillings. There wasn't even a line. No one else around. I hadn't taken a bite yet, and Edwards was already frowning. "What's wrong?" I snapped out of my daze, looked at the noodles in my hand, then up at Edwards. After hesitating a moment, I asked quietly, "Do I owe you for 2 portions?" His expression froze. After a long pause, he forced out a reply. "No need." My hand slipped. I put in too much. LOL, the villain finally tried to show some feelings, and the noodle girl completely missed it. My hand slipped, right, and I'm the Queen of England. Bro's down bad and hiding it so badly. Our side girl says nothing. Just hands over money. Seeing his tense, handsome face, my heart suddenly started beating really fast. My cheeks burned. I blurted, "Thank you. I really like, speaking of liking, do you? I like you too." The snack street was crowded and noisy. But in that moment, time stood still. I looked up in a daze, across the little food cart, and met his serious eyes. Boom. Fireworks went off in my head. I was practically overwhelmed and at a loss for words. Seeing my reaction, he let out a low chuckle. "Hurry up and eat before it gets cold." "Oh, okay." I picked up a piece and put it in my mouth. Chew, chew, chew. One bite, then a glance at him. Another bite, another glance. Edwards noticed and smiled even wider. "Want another one? Girlfriends eat free." I was never the type to take advantage of others. I immediately pulled out 200 yuan. "No need. I have money. I can, sponsor your entire stall." Edwards burst into laughter. "All right." Fiery and dazed, word on the street is the villain got bought out for 200 yuan. Honestly? The plot's going off script, but I love it. The villain and side character are kinda cute together. Wait, wasn't the villain into the female lead? What happened? LOL, I bet he's made up a whole drama in his head. I stared at the bullet comments, dizzy and dazed. Was I actually dating the villain? But whether he was a villain or not didn't really matter. To me, Edwards was simply wonderful. After we got together, not much changed. With the college entrance exams approaching, Edwards temporarily gave up his food stall to study seriously. I couldn't eat his grilled cold noodles anymore, but I refused to buy from anyone else. So I just studied with him. Sometimes, when he had a bit of free time, he'd make grilled cold noodles at home and bring them to me. What used to be available to everyone, was now only mine. I munched happily, chew, chew, chew. Edwards rested his chin on his hand and looked at me with a calm smile, his eyes gentle. "You look like a little hamster when you eat." I blinked. Huh? There was a hint of laughter in his eyes. Nothing. So weird. Later, the college entrance exams ended. Edwards did well and got into Q University. I didn't make it into Q University, but I was admitted to a good school in the same city. I made some quiet inquiries and found out that Susan had gone south, and James also went to a university there. One day, I cautiously brought it up and watched Edwards' expression closely. "Hey Edwards, do you know Susan? I heard she's really pretty." "Yeah." He turned to look at me. He seemed to know exactly what I was thinking and didn't bother hiding anything. "She helped me once. If she ever needs help in the future, I'll return the favor. But I know the difference between gratitude and love." When he said that, his expression was serious, and his deep eyes locked onto mine. Then he suddenly leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead. "She's great. But you're great too, kind, brave, and genuine. Don't ever sell yourself short." My heart trembled. I looked at him, dazed. Then, suddenly breaking into a smile, I stood on tiptoe and kissed him on the lips. "Thank you." The moment I stole that kiss, my cheeks flushed bright red, and I quickly turned to run. But he grabbed me. His voice was low and a little hoarse. Something just brushed past my lips. I didn't quite catch it. "Wanna try again?" "Me? Why is the villain such a flirt?" "Too sweet. I hereby declare my loyalty to the grilled noodle couple. I have VIP access, let me see the rest. I need to see what happens next." College life was busy but fulfilling. I heard Susan didn't end up with either Thomas or James. She was devoted to medical research, determined to find a cure for the same illness that had taken her grandmother. James stayed by her side all the time, but never got any closer, like a knight guarding a princess, silently and faithfully. But I no longer cared. Edwards was busy too, starting a business. Not with grilled cold noodles, by the way. He majored in artificial intelligence, and the program he developed became an instant online sensation. But at home, he'd take off his custom-tailored suit, roll up his sleeves, and make me grilled cold noodles. Drawn by the smell, I'd run over and hug him from behind, leaning against his back and peeking into the pan. "Yours still taste the best." The corner of Edward's lips curled up slightly. After dinner, he looked at me with a dark, smoldering gaze. I felt something was off and quickly tried to flee, only to be scooped up into his arms and carried straight to the bedroom. "You've eaten your fill. Now it's my turn." Our life was ordinary and simple. But to him, it was once out of reach. A dream he had longed for day and night. Looking back, I never would have imagined that the villain who once sold grilled cold noodles on the street would become the man who lights up my life. Not with grand gestures, but with the way he quietly stood beside me, shared his warmth, and gave me a home I never knew I needed. He still makes the best grilled cold noodles in the world, and still kisses me like I'm his favorite miracle. And maybe I am.